Well, you sent recording in progress. Yeah, it was basically me, me dominating it, talking far too much. What was I talking about? Oh goodness, you edited it, I think, and you said you will be adding to it. But what I said last week,
Yeah.
what was I talking about? I can't even remember.
Before,
Obviously, it wasn't that good, not that good. But I talked for quite a long time. Oh, I know. It was about. Was it about Concorde taking
yeah,
off
well,
on
yeah, it was about phone call.
Concorde? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it was, wasn't it?
yeah.
So,
But I didn't edit that bit out though, because I really love the Concord bit. I tell you what, Trevor, let's just do the welcome to
yeah,
all right, so welcome to the Alien Spaceship. I'm Emmy Hikins.
I'm Trevor Gear.
All right, so we can carry on talking now.
Yeah. Am I actually on there somewhere? Because I can see my chin moving. I don't know why. I'm just at the top. Oh well, it
You
doesn't
know,
matter. I don't need to see myself, but I just wonder if I'm even on there. Can you see me?
I can see you clearly.
And can you see you as well?
I can see me. Yeah.
Yeah, you see,
Yeah.
you've got an advantage over me. Hang on, if I press, no, I won't press OK. No, okay.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about?
Well, I'll tell you what. The covers, the cover that your Lucy did, it was Lucy that did it, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, Lucy did that. Let me
It's
hang on a sec.
all right.
Don't go anywhere. See, I can't see it because I can't see myself. Can you see that?
Yeah. Yeah. If you raise it up a little bit more. Yeah. Look at that.
So
We,
it's on a canvas, so it's good, isn't it?
we should both sign it for her. How's that? Do you know
Yeah,
what
that
I mean?
sounds a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
all right, isn't it?
You never know where the show goes. It could
No,
become,
absolutely.
yeah, it could become a Netflix number one.
As I said, it could be good if we can get that sort of at the front of each of our shows like that or something.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you mean.
But
Yeah.
we'll see. But no, I was pleased with that. She did a good job on that.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
good job.
I mean, what I'm hoping and I'm praying is, that we get a sponsor, and then what we can do is
Yeah,
um actually be in a studio, so we can have the video version of it and the audio version of it. That would sell.
right.
But we'll get there
That would
anyway.
be good.
Yeah, but it's still good to retain the audio version of it because because the people in the car, they might be driving in the car or
Yeah,
not. Yeah, so it's good to have that version of it as well. So that
absolutely.
version is going to be there, but it's good to just have it's good to have a visual as
Yeah.
well. So what was I going to say? Yeah, that the cover that was brilliant because it was like Emmy Cos and then and then Trevor Bro.
Yeah,
You know,
it's perfect, wasn't it?
yeah, I saw it
and
the first.
the alien looking over your shoulder.
I know. I looked at it the first day, but I didn't think much of it. And then when I started working with it to put it on as
Yeah,
a cover, I thought, hang on a minute, what's that I've
it's
missed?
pretty good.
I know, it's brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. I love it.
No, it was good.
I love it.
I'll tell Lucy you said that, so that's
Yeah,
good.
I love it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. She did a very good job there. And yeah, it just shows that talent runs in your blood.
Yeah, well she's very creative on those things. She's done
Yeah.
things for me like that before. So yeah, it's in the family.
Yeah. So, a friend of mine once said that I said I love this version of the Mercedes. It was the AMG, that one that looks like it's
Yes, I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
the SUV version of it. But I think there's a car version of it as well. I can't remember now because I've seen something like an AMG on a car, but I know the one that I was talking about is the this SUV version of it, the big one, the
Right.
Mercedes. And I was saying to a mate, I said to him, I said, you know what, Ashton, I said, I really love this Mercedes. And he said, which one? So I said the AMG, and he said, well. you do know that it's a Nazi car.
Originally, I think, yeah, I think the Nazis used to ride around in open-topped Mercedes cars, yeah.
All
And I
right.
think AMG is something to do with the something Mercedes group, because you see that AMG on a lot of Mercedes.
All
It's not
right.
just one.
All right. So
So,
one. I thought it was just that one. Oh,
no.
all right. Yeah. Well, they're well expensive, those.
Yeah,
I think,
good cars. Very good cars, yeah.
yeah, yeah, they're good cars. Yeah. I was looking on the website once and I saw like one that you could customize. And
Right.
yeah, and it was going for about 347 grand. I didn't know they were that
Oh, dear.
expensive. Yeah, I know. But it was like you could actually customize it to your taste, so
Right. Very
yeah.
good.
Yeah, well, very
There's
good.
a place in Weybridge in Surrey, not
Right,
a million miles from here,
right.
where they have the Mercedes. I don't know whether it's a head office, but it's a pretty huge um, premises property they've got there, including a kind of a racetrack as well. And you can actually take you can pay to go racing on the racetrack, which is quite something. And they actually have professional racers there as well. But actually, the main building is full of beautiful Mercedes cars, brand new, and
Wow.
it's a free place to go. I mean, I've not been there probably for a couple of years, but when the kids were smaller, we
Yeah.
took them there, and they can sit in the cars, all these brand new cars in what is
Oh, yeah.
effectively a showroom. And I remember, got to be a few years ago now, probably 9 or 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
we took Kimberly and Lucy there, and they were only, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, something like that. And they could drive a car. They had a particular lady instructor with them,
Wow.
but they could drive around another course there on the property, probably for about an hour. And they loved it, and they say they were only young, but they could actually they were taught how to drive these cars. The only thing about it was that I remember going in the back
Yeah.
on one of their driving things,
Yeah.
and the sort of road it was on this course.
Yeah.
Talk about ideal for this country, because it was absolutely full of potholes, even before even before they got terrible here. So I suppose it was it was good training for anyone who wants to drive in this country. But yeah, they drove there for the first time, both of them. So that was a good experience. But this Mercedes place is excellent. I mean, they got a nice little restaurant there. Obviously, you pay for things there, food and drinks and things. But it's a brilliant place to go. Anyone within that general catchment area,
Yeah.
it's a good. You don't pay to go in. It's just excellent. So
I,
yeah, that's Mercedes. Very
I,
good car make, of course.
I
Like
would,
most of the German cars, they've kept their. Unlike us, we've sold all our car makers off, haven't we?
yeah.
But they've got Volkswagen, Audi, Mercedes, um, loads, three or four, five car makers, and they're all very top class.
Wow.
Yeah,
I should go there. Did you say it's in Weybridge?
Weybridge. Yeah, it's next to a place called Brooklands, which is where which is actually where Concorde was mainly designed, going back to Concorde. And we in Britain built I would say about 60%, maybe a bit more, of the Concorde. The other bits were built in France. But it was actually designed and largely built there in Brooklands. And they've got one of the old prototype Concords there, which you can go on and have a look at it and everything, as well as lots of things. They got an old buses during the war,
Yeah.
where horses pulled them and things like that. It's just a really interesting place to go, and they got racing cars there,
Yeah.
going back years. So that's called Brooklands, and it's totally next to Mercedes. So it's a good day out for people.
Yeah.
But as I say, it's in Weybridge in Surrey, not far from the dreaded M25 motorway.
Oh yeah.
So you need to try and avoid that motorway if ever
Oh,
you come down this way.
I'm 25. Do you know, whenever I go to London and I get stuck on the M25,
Yeah,
you know there's going to be traffic on the M25.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
guaranteed. You know,
guaranteed. Yeah,
I remember years ago, I think it was 2008 or 7, when they were doing the expansion. They were expanding it, and for years,
right.
yeah, and even then, you still have the traffic. I don't get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
What was the need for the expansion if there's still going to be traffic?
Yeah, I mean, the more lanes they make, because they've been taking away the hard shoulder, of course, to
Yeah,
make so-called smart motorways, which they're not, quite dangerous places, I think.
yeah, very
But
deep.
even with four, sometimes five lanes,
Yeah,
in some parts of the M25, the traffic still fills it. The bigger you make it, the more the traffic will fill it up. So it's a never-ending process, really. But when it works, it's a good way to go around London rather than through London. So
yeah,
it has its positive side as well.
yeah. I mean, there was a time when, 'cause sometimes when I want to go to London, I like setting off. I like setting off in the early hours of the morning, say about 3
Yeah,
a.m., 4 a.m.,
yeah,
where you can beat the traffic. But
good
guarantee,
idea.
I still hit traffic when I get to London. Everywhere
Mm,
else is all right. Like, you have to go through the M1. It's all right
yeah,
up until you get to the M25. That's always a nightmare. Always a nightmare.
yeah, yeah.
M25, yeah. Um,
But
this
best to get there early if you can.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the only way to beat it. That's the
Yeah.
only way to beat the traffic. This is something else I've been thinking about quite recently, Trevor, and I don't think it has any significance on the cost of petrol. But did men actually go to the moon? Did
Well, I mentioned that last week, didn't I? Um,
yeah.
well, what do you think? Do you think men went to the moon?
I don't know. I don't know. Do you know, with a lot of these conspiracy theories, being perpetuated around the world and on the internet, of course, the more I'm starting to believe that it was a big, hoax.
Hoax. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
thinking, the moon landing was faked. I don't know. I'm in no authority to, say whether it is or not, but with the proofs that people are bringing out, I'm
yeah.
starting, I'm starting to get swayed to, not believing that it was real. I'm not starting to
Mm.
think that it was fake, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it affects the cost of petrol these days, but it's just something.
I think like any conspiracy really, but certainly with the moon,
Yeah,
you can come up with a lot of pretty genuine evidence, if you want,
yeah,
to support either view, because there's no question. I mean, I've over the years I've read quite a lot about this, and there's no question that some of the photographs,
yeah.
some of them are definitely, I say, faked. They're clearly not from the moon mission, so they're possibly from when they landed a spacecraft without people on it there. But
Right.
some of the photographs are definitely suspect. And as I say, I've got a couple of books on it, and I sort of think, yeah, it's a bit dicey. And I'm not sure that NASA have ever admitted that some photos are not what they say they are. But
Yeah,
there's no question. People who've researched this say, yeah, they're not. These are not necessarily of the moon missions they're stating.
yeah,
But the other side of it is people also say if it was faked, then we're told it took a back room of 400,000 people to actually get people on the moon,
yeah,
then, okay, on one hand, you could say they would all have to be quiet about the conspiracy or the hoax. But
yeah.
then again, the answer to that is, which NASA says, well, or not NASA, but conspiracy people would say, is that it's only the top few people who really knew what was happening. Did you ever see a film called Capricorn 5?
No, no, I haven't.
Some years ago, Um, it was probably a film. I think it was in the mid 70s,
Yeah,
perhaps towards 19, perhaps early 80s. I can't really remember, but it was a film about three astronauts
yeah,
going off from America, not from Houston, from Cape Canaveral,
yeah,
and they were going to Mars. And they took off. The rocket went up, and almost instantly there was an escape hatch, which they were made to work.
right,
And long story short, they were sort of dropped into the sea as if they had just come back. They were picked up, and they didn't know this was going to happen, the astronauts,
right,
and they were taken to some place in the California desert. Anyway, the point was the authorities, NASA, still said, "Oh, here are the television pictures of the astronauts on their way," and they were taken to a place in the desert, some huge building, where they had a fake Mars surface,
right.
a bit like the moon looked.
Yeah,
And they were told if they didn't go along with it, their families would be killed. And so they had to sort of go along with this. But eventually they knew they would have to be killed by whoever was doing this, by the government, I suppose, or NASA.
wow.
Otherwise, they would come out with it and say what had happened. But it's actually a very good film, and it was released. And at the time, I think it was probably about 1980, something like that. But at the
Yeah,
time, the feeling was this film had been made so that people could actually see what really happened when the rockets went to the moon. It really wasn't all the way to the moon. So if you ever see that, you can probably find that film. I
right.
don't know whether there's any old DVD. There's
Oh,
probably a
I
DVD
don't
of
write
it
it down.
somewhere.
Is it called a Capricorn?
Capricorn 5, just the number 5. So
Yeah,
Capricorn 5. And
yeah,
it was just in itself, it was an excellent film, but it shows you how it could have been done as far as the moon was concerned. And they think that's why, some person who's going to spill the beans on this made this film. So it's very clever, and it does make you think that, do we really believe everything that we're told? Because there's a lot of propaganda about, isn't there?
yeah. There is. There's a lot of propaganda, a lot of conspiracy theories. Like we said.
Mm.
Yeah. Another thing that I was thinking about. This is an age-old question, Trevor. I hope you're ready for this.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, come on then.
Is there such a thing as normal?
As what?
As normal? As being normal?
Normal.
Yeah,
Normal.
yeah.
Well, it's an interesting question
It is,
because
isn't
I
it?
suppose
Yeah,
you could say that no, you could say that life is like 100% everything that happens in life. The two 5% at each end
yeah.
are things that are abnormal, not normal. The rest, the 90%, is really effectively what we would say is normal, because normal clearly is a subjective thing, isn't it? What to you may be normal may not be normal to me. So I think normality is somewhere in about 90% of reality. That was quite a profound comment, that wasn't it?
I know it's got me thinking because, you know, I think it was an advert on television, and this advert said, when you're ill, and then they were trying to advertise a particular, I think it was a cold, I think it was a cold medicine or something, and they were trying to say
Right.
get you back to normal, and then they added the word whatever normal is, and it got me
Mm.
thinking, right, okay, so was it normal before you got ill? And then now that you feel better, is that normal? Was that what was normal? Was you, was you perfectly okay before you
Mm.
go? Did you have no aches and pain? Did you have no worries in life? Or were there no things in life that you were kind of not happy about? And now you're back to that stage where, where you think, right, so this is where I was before that happened, and now I'm
Yeah.
I'm back there, but this isn't really where I want to be, sort of thing.
Mm.
I still want to be better than this, and then you think, well, at what stage do you then say, right, okay, so this is normal for me, you know? Yeah, it's
I
quite,
guess it refers to the health side of it. If there's something wrong with you, you got an illness of some sort, and you take medication,
yeah.
and you get over that illness, you get over whatever the problem was. I think that's all it means is back to normal health, perhaps not necessarily normal in other parts of your life. But yeah, I think normality, health wise, it's a very wide word, isn't it? Normal. It covers a lot of strange stuff because
I suppose it's a
we
state of
look around and see a lot of people who don't seem to be normal at all.
I know. I know. I suppose to me, I'm starting to think it's a state of mind. It's a state of mind where you think, I'm normal. And there are things that's happened today. There are things that we see today, and you think, well, that's not normal, is it?
Mm,
And to
absolutely.
that person, it is normal. It's
Mm,
perfectly normal to them.
mm,
And to some other people, it's normal. So in your circle of friends, it might be considered abnormal, right? But,
mm.
but then in their circle of friends, it could be normal to them. And then
Yeah,
now, yeah, so now you don't think, well, who is the judge of what is norm? What is a norm?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
who's to judge what is the norm that we should have? Who do you look up to for norms? For things that you think that is normal. For instance, I don't think having pizza having pineapple on your pizza is normal. I think that I think
And
that's
some people do. You
I,
think it is. You don't
I know.
think it is.
I know. I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, you're not normal, are you? You can't have pizza. You can't have pineapple on your pizza. It's not normal. But then I've seen when because I used to live up in Scotland, and when I lived up in Scotland, I've seen not one person, but at least two or three people that would come to
Mm,
work and they'd have a sandwich. And the sandwich is not really a sandwich. So I don't know what to call it, but they'd have crisp in between
right.
in between
The bread. Yeah, absolutely. And people put, for example, you read of people putting Marmite on with, well, an egg or something that seems completely wrong. So, yeah, what is normal? I suppose normal is we're talking about human behavior, aren't we? And we see some unusual
I
human
don't
behavior, which might make it abnormal, I suppose. It's something, there are certain acceptable behaviors in life that a majority say, well, yeah, that's okay. I suppose if some people step outside that and become either antisocial or very eccentric, then
yeah,
we would consider that as not normal, really.
yeah,
Give you
yeah,
one example I remember from a few years ago now.
right.
Um, as I've said before, I go to see Crystal Palace play. I go to the home games with a season ticket, occasional away games. But a few years ago, I went there with my boy Paul to Norwich. We went all the way down to Norwich, um, quite a long way from here, but because of course there's no motorway out there from this part of the world, so it's quite a long drive. Anyway, um, we obviously you sit in the ground with the away supporters, with the Palace supporters on that day, and I would say these days football supporters are pretty well behaved. I think it was the late 80s where there was a lot of thuggery and all sorts of
Yeah,
stuff was going on in football grounds. But thankfully, all that has been controlled. I think for the most part. So in then, and this has got to be, I don't know, 15 years ago, perhaps, when I just went to see Norwich beat our team, play our team Palace. And so our fans, Palace fans, have always been pretty well behaved. Um, so there were quite a crowd of us there. I don't know how many, probably 2 or 3 thousand Palace fans, and the rest would have been Norwich fans. And before the match started,
Yeah.
And it was the days where you had quite a few police in the grounds. I mean, you don't find that now unless they're really dicey games in terms of how the supporters react to each other.
Right.
But you don't often find police. You get lots of stewards who, generally control what's going on. I think in some high tension games you get police waiting outside the ground. But anyway, on this day there were quite a few police there, and in the sort of 20 minutes before the game started, we were all sort of sitting there, as Palace fans, perfectly well behaved. I mean, some of them were singing songs before the game and all the rest of it. But there were police there, and there was one chap, one policeman, and he was clearly the boss policeman. He looked as if he wasn't too far from retirement. Great big chap with a flat peaked cap on, rather than the big helmet type things. And behind us, against the sort of wall, there were probably 9 or 10 police constables sort of standing there, not doing anything, just watching and making sure everything was okay. And there was this sergeant. He was obviously their boss with this flat cap. Anyway, he started walking. We're talking about normal or abnormal. He started walking down between the seats either side of our fans,
Yeah.
and he would say, "Oi, you, get out, come here." And he wanted to throw them out the ground. He said, "I'm throwing you out." And this is really true. I mean, there was nothing going on in the crowd. Football fans are a bit noisy. They cheer when the game is nearly going to start.
Yeah.
But he started to pick on people, and people thought, "I'm not going to go out there." And he couldn't really get along the line.
Yeah.
So when that didn't work, he pointed to someone else who was honestly doing nothing wrong. It was a strange experience. Anyway, this carried on, and I remember thinking, and Paul and I said, "I hope he doesn't pick on us, because you don't like to not. If a policeman says do something,
Yeah.
you would do it, certainly in a football situation." But no one was doing it. I think they thought, well, we're not going to go there and just get thrown out the ground for doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the constables thought behind. Anyway, he was he was getting redder in the face. It was a strange thing, and maybe he had other problems, but he was getting so angry, as if he was trying to make up problems which were not there.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was sort of, then he turned away from our row, and he was looking just over to that row of our fans. And it's something I'll never forget. Most football grounds, they sell very nice pies, pucker pies or
All
something.
right.
And all of a sudden, I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, probably then 10, 15 years ago, it was £3 or £4. Nowadays, you can pay £7 or £8. I don't have the pies. I don't really like them, but that's what you would pay.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, he had his back to us, this sergeant, great big chap. And literally, all of a sudden, a pie hit him, hit him on the back of the head. His hat went flying. I mean, I suppose it was funny at the time, but everybody froze, and he turned around. He said, "Who did that?" And he was like steam coming out of his ears, and he was very red in the face. I thought, is he going to have a heart attack? And the only thing is, and he was saying, "Who did this?" But then 3 or 4 of the constables came down, and I looked round, and they were all sniggering and laughing at this, because the impression we got was that he was a bit of a tyrant with them, and he just, I don't know, maybe he was just looking for problems that weren't there.
Yeah.
But they came down, and because they thought he's going to get ill in a minute, so they escorted him back, and they were desperately trying to hide their their laughter. I mean, I just thought, well, that poor chap, he bought his pie, but it was more important to try and get it to stop this policeman hassling us, and it smacked him on the back of the head. I mean, it didn't physically hurt him, obviously, but he was a bit splattered with a pie all down his back, and his hat was somewhere in the crowd. So going back to what is normal, I don't really think on that occasion he may have been a very good policeman otherwise, but on that day, it obviously wasn't his day. It wasn't normal behaviour, really, to be
No, it wasn't.
singling out people who weren't doing anything wrong. But I think we were quite relieved to see the young policemen, the police constables, they were all laughing, helplessly, but they just had to try and hide it from their boss. So yeah, that was an example of abnormal behavior on his part, I think.
It felt like it sounded like something you'd see in a movie when it's,
Absolutely, it was. Yeah, you'd see it and you think it was all a big set-up thing, but we never really understood. People we talked afterwards, no one understood why he was doing that. It's just like he was trying to find trouble, which wasn't there. It
Yeah.
really wasn't. So I've never understood why he was doing that. Perhaps he just had a bad day and someone had upset him, and he was making his weight felt about the place.
You know,
But
you
it
know,
was it
I'm
was
thinking,
funny, I must say.
I'm thinking the worst place you can do anything like that is at the football ground, because there's all
Yeah,
sorts of people there. They're just
yeah,
there, if they're peaceful, you're having a good day as a policeman.
it is. Yeah, and that's the other thing that I don't know who threw it. I mean, it came seemingly above us, and he looked round, and people were just laughing. But no, I mean, I just thought, well, the poor chap's lost his pie, sort of thing. But it was obviously better for him to see, and he was so accurate. I mean, it's not as if he was very close to the policeman; it just got him right on the back of the head.
And he got the
I've
right
never forgotten that. Needless to say.
Oh, dear me. I did, talking about this football hooliganism that you're talking about, and how it used to be rampant back in the days. It just got me thinking that now is it the norm now, or was it the norm then? When they had all the violence in football and
Mm,
all the radicalism in football, was it the norm then? Are we having a change from the norm now? Do you see what I mean?
mm. Yeah, I
Because
do.
yeah, because when I was growing up, I was told never to go to a football match because there was all these sorts of
Mm,
and radicalism there, and you could get in a fight just like that. Um,
mm,
and now it's sort of quelled down a little bit. I'm thinking, well, it's changed. Is it changed? Was this the norm? Was this what it was meant to be?
mm.
It just got me thinking on that norm bit. Um, yeah, but it's a funny story though. He really got what he really got his comeuppance there.
He did. Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
I think football just went through a very difficult phase in the 80s and even beginning of the 90s, I suppose. Even now, you still get pockets
Oh
of
yeah.
bad behaviour, but generally, I think football crowds are fairly well controlled. I mean, certainly Kimberly has a season ticket. Lucy does, but I mean, she often works on
Yeah.
a match day anyway. She has a part-time job until she goes to uni later in the year. And she's not so keen. But Kimberly loves her football, and frankly, if there was any sense of risk, to them, I would never take them along to a football match. So
Yeah.
it's all pretty safe, thankfully nowadays.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah. We've just had a leap year, aren't we? Or yeah, we're
Yeah, this is elite. Yeah,
having a leap year, aren't we? And
we are.
yeah, I was watching the news the other day, and there were people that were born on the 29th, and they only do their birthdays every 4 years.
Well, it's interesting. I think if what I understand is that if you're born on the 29th before midday,
Yeah.
then your birthday is on the 28th for the other 3 years, and then it's the 29th. After midday, it becomes the 1st of March. I think if it were me, I would just stick with the last day in February because they're not born in March, are they? So it
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
quite make sense to say the 1st of March. I would always stay with the 28th of Feb, apart from the leap year when you can have your real birthday.
Yeah. If someone was born 4 leap years ago, they'd be 4 years old, wouldn't
Yeah, that's right.
they?
It's a bit like dog years, isn't it? Apparently they have 7 years for our year or something, don't they?
There were a guy, I think there was about two guys on the news, and it was proper saying, I'm 8 years old, and he's a grown man with beards and all that. You're not 8 years old.
30, 32, really. Yeah.
You're not 8 years old. You're a grown man. Yeah, that made me laugh though. Yeah, plausible
One of
deniability.
the things,
Yeah,
sorry, one of the things on your list before
yeah,
was which I thought was interesting. What do you think is the most talked about subject in England? I
yeah.
mean, I guess there's a risk of that discussion becoming a bit too serious. But what do you think is the most talked about, the most talked about subject?
Well, I think the most talked about subject in England is the weather. You can never go wrong with that.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah, we're known for that, aren't we? Talking
Yeah,
about the weather.
yeah.
Yeah,
Always complain about the weather. We don't get any sun, and then when the sun comes out, we're like, oh yeah, we're spoiling. We're the first to complain.
we're never satisfied, really.
I know, yeah. The sun is probably up there going, yeah, all right. You make up your mind, what you want. Do you want me or do you want the rain?
Yeah, we don't get enough sun, do we, in our country? We really don't.
No, we don't do it. Yeah, we don't get enough sun.
No.
But do you know what always surprises me? Every time we don't get rainfall for like 4 weeks, they're talking about hosepipe ban. I don't get that.
Yeah, yeah, we go all through the winter like this one,
Yeah.
absolutely drenched in rain continuously, and then a couple of weeks of sun, and we have hosepipe bans. It is ridiculous, isn't it? We are going back to normal. I don't think we're a very normal country, really, are we? We're a very odd country.
It's like a hosepipe ban. And I'm sat there I'm sat there thinking, hang on a minute, we've just had a whole month of rainfall,
Yeah.
floods, and now you're talking about hosepipe ban. Where's all the water gone?
Well, it's leaked. Much of it leaks away, doesn't it, from the
Yeah, yeah,
Victorian pipes and sewers?
yes. But
But
when
yeah,
they never talk about hosepipe ban in Scotland, though. I've never
do they
heard.
not?
No,
Really?
I've never heard that. I've never heard because it's always rain. Well, not always raining. I think it rains more in the north, northwest
Yeah.
than it rains in Scotland. But I've never heard it. I might be wrong though, but I've never heard of a
Mm.
hose pipe ban in Scotland because they always have water. So over to you then. What do you think is the most talked about uh, subject?
Well, it depends, doesn't it, on what the circumstances are. I think you're right. If you bump into someone or you're talking to someone on a bus or something, or in a shop, a typical thing is the weather. People say, "Oh, it's nice and lovely and sunny today, isn't it?" and so on. So that, as British people go, I think that